Wang Lin unleashes Sundered Night, annihilating multiple All-Seer avatars and detonating the sun, itself shattering both reality and the All-Seer's confidence. Just as the three All-Seers launched their attack, a figure emerged within the blazing sun. It was Wang Lin. He was the sun itself, golden radiance bursting endlessly from his body. Below the sea revealed the demon spirit land, as though all things were caught between illusion and reality. Wang Lin's gaze turned cold as he looked upon the three approaching figures. He raised his hand, waved it lightly, and spoke a single calm command. Sundered Night. The moment the words left his lips, a thunderous rumble swept across the world. The sun rose fully above the ocean. A terrifying force, one that could tear apart the night itself, surged outward without restraint. Endless sunlight roared forward like a mad tide. The law of origin moved with it, flooding the heavens and earth. Sundered Night was born from the sea. The purple-robed All-Seer, moving at extreme speed with thousands of shadows fused into his form, crashed directly into Sundered Night. The boundless sunlight and scorching heat annihilated everything before them as if it were nothing more than darkness. There were no exceptions. Unimaginable pain erupted from the purple-robed All-Seer's body. His arms dissolved into a mist of blood, followed by his legs, then a large portion of his torso. In but a single moment, he collapsed completely. As he fell apart, countless shadows burst from his body. They shrieked as they lunged toward Wang Lin within the sun. Yet they were like snowflakes beneath blazing daylight, melting away without leaving even a trace. At the same time, the massive palm formed by the yellow-robed All-Seer descended from above. Even the sun could not pierce through it. It reached directly toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin remained calm. A sneer appeared on his face, even as the palm grasped the sun surrounding him. But the instant the palm made contact, a miserable scream erupted from within it. Yang fire capable of burning all things surged across the palm. It trembled violently before instantly reverting back into the yellow-robed All-Seer. The yellow-robed All-Seer appeared as though he were embracing the sun. Yet in just a few breaths, his body ignited. Flames consumed him until nothing remained but charred remnants. The blood sword released by the grey-robed All-Seer surged forward with desperate force, tearing through everything in its path. In an instant, it pierced into the blazing sun. At that moment, monstrous slaughter energy erupted from the blood sword, colliding violently with the sun's intense heat and light. The grey-robed All-Seer let out a roar, and his right eye suddenly exploded. The moment his right eye collapsed, the power of the blood sword surged several times over. The flames surrounding it were forced back, and even the sunlight itself shattered under its force. The sword broke through most of the sun's radiance and came within 10 feet of Wang Lin. The grey-robed All-Seer roared again, then his left eye shattered as well. The blood sword grew even more terrifying. It pierced through the remaining sunlight and charged directly toward Wang Lin. With this desperate strike, the night that had been torn apart seemed to condense once more, as though it sought to devour the sun itself. The blood sword shot through the sun and stabbed straight into Wang Lin's chest. Yet halfway through, Wang Lin raised his right hand and caught the blade. The force pushed him back several steps. Blood spilled from his mouth. Then he lifted his head, his expression turning ferocious. "Old thing, you nearly killed me by forcing me to cultivate the celestial slaughter art. Today, you die." As Wang Lin roared, the sun surrounding him suddenly exploded. The explosion spread outward instantly with Wang Lin at its center. This was the self-destruction of the sun. The power contained within it was beyond imagination. It was as if the heavens themselves had been torn open and forced back. The sea roared violently. The earth collapsed. The destructive force reached a terrifying peak as the sun detonated. The grey-robed All-Seer, being the closest, bore the full brunt of the blast. He barely had time to form a seal and raise his hand before him. His body curled inward like that of an infant swallowed by the overwhelming force. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The remnants of night that had begun to reform collapsed completely. In that instant, heaven and earth vanished. The sky disappeared. The sea disappeared. Only the chaotic destruction of the exploding sun remained. Yet in the blink of an eye, everything vanished. The sea was gone. The sun was gone. Even the shattered sky had disappeared without a trace. What appeared once more was the demon spirit land. It was as if everything that had just occurred had been nothing more than a dream. The sky remained crimson, filled with flames. The cry of the Vermillion Bird pierced through the fire, drawing ever closer. Yet the stunned expressions of everyone on the ground proved that everything that had just happened was real. The grey-robed All-Seer continued to dissipate until only a sliver of will remained. In a flash, that remnant returned to the original body of the All-Seer. Sundered Night had slain 3 beings, and these were no ordinary figures. They were Master Void and 2 of the All-Seer's avatars. Even the grey-robed one had been gravely wounded, reduced to nothing but a fragment of will. Ling Tianhou trembled. Before this, he had only feared Wang Lin. Even that massive palm had not filled him with true terror. But now, he was afraid. He could never have imagined that Wang Lin's spell would reach such a level. What is his cultivation? This kind of spell has never been heard of. The All-Seer's face turned pale. He coughed out blood and staggered back several steps before lifting his head to stare at Wang Lin. Of his 3 avatars, 2 had been destroyed. The grey-robed one was nearly gone. This was a blow he had not suffered in countless years. Even his true body had been injured. Yet the damage to his flesh and origin soul was nothing compared to the collapse of his calculations. He had misjudged Wang Lin again and again. It was a devastating blow to his confidence. No one noticed, but his body was trembling. He trembled because of that spell. At a glance, he recognized it, the law of origin. The origin of all laws. It was not something a cultivator should be able to grasp. Its power was beyond comprehension. He destroyed 3 of my avatars. Wang Lin, my greatest mistake was taking you as my disciple and allowing you to leave planet Suzaku. The All-Seer clenched his teeth. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to suppress the shock and regain composure. He was not alone. Situ Nan, Big Head, Master Hollow Wind, all were stunned into silence. Master Hollow Wind was slightly less shaken, having witnessed Sundered Night before. Even so, his scalp tingled and fear lingered deep within him. Wang Wei and Huquan gasped sharply. They looked at each other, seeing shock and terror reflected in each other's eyes. Just moments ago, they too had been drawn into that illusion, placed in a separate space, able only to watch, unable to intervene. Yet even they were not the most shaken. Ancient Devil, Tajia, who had been charging into the sky with his blade, and the Flower Imperial Concubine. They were the ones most affected. The Flower Imperial Concubine gazed at Wang Lin, her eyes filled with both remembrance and fear. She recalled her husband's words that someone named Wang would save him. But what filled her with fear was the law of origin Wang Lin had just displayed. No one understood that power better than she did. Long ago, Celestial Emperor Qing Lin had nearly perished because of it. Within the sealed realm, it was called the law of origin. Outside, it was known as the law of absolute beginning. For the first time, Ancient Devil, Tajia's calm mind was shaken. Within that spell, he sensed a terrifying power. Though still weak once it matured, even he would be forced to retreat in fear. This is the power of the Supreme. Tajia's gaze locked onto Wang Lin. His pupils shrank. He felt that this man was the final contingency prepared by Qing Lin for his awakening. Far away within the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance, where life tokens of important figures were stored. At the highest shelf, one of the 3 purple jade tokens shattered the moment Sundered Night faded. At the same time, a bell began to toll throughout the headquarters. Some cultivators looked up. Since the war with all heaven began, people died every day. But most were insignificant, unworthy of having their life tokens placed here. The death bell had only sounded a few times before never more than 5. With the arrogance of the Cultivation Alliance, morality meant nothing. They would launch massive retaliations. Anyone who dared to kill an important member would become the enemy of the entire alliance. The bell rang once, twice, 3 times. When it rang 5 times more, cultivators looked up. But the bell did not stop. 6, 7, then 8 times. At that moment, every cultivator in the headquarters froze, staring toward the place where the tokens of the powerful were kept. Dong! When the bell rang the 9th time, a wave of terror swept through everyone. Inside a secret chamber, a middle-aged man abruptly raised his head. Rage filled his eyes. His figure blurred, surging forward like a storm across the headquarters. In an instant, he arrived before the life tokens. His gaze fell upon Master Void's shattered token, and he let out a roar that shook the heavens. The entire Cultivation Alliance seemed to tremble beneath that roar. Only one man approached calmly, arriving outside the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance. His gaze was cold as he stared forward. In his right eye, the red light of the G realm flickered. Without hesitation, he stepped inside. The moment Sundered Night vanished and Wang Lin reappeared within the demon spirit land, the endless chaos inside the 18th layer of his 18 hells. Celestial ceiling stamp was torn open by an unimaginable force. Within it 3 souls emerged. They were Master Void's soul from his first Heaven's Blight, the purple-robed All-Seer avatar, and the yellow-robed All-Seer avatar. Shockingly, the 2 avatars began to fuse within that 18th layer. Wang Lin's face was pale, yet his posture remained perfectly straight. At this moment, no one present dared to underestimate him, regardless of who they were. To kill 3 people and reduce a 4th to a mere sliver of will, this was not something an ordinary cultivator could accomplish. A savage expression surfaced on Wang Lin's pale face. His gaze was cold as he looked toward the All-Seer and his avatars. The blood sword remained lodged in his chest, embedded deep within his flesh. Blood seeped from the wound, staining his clothes a deep red. The All-Seer's 3 great avatars were desperate, but Wang Lin was no less desperate. Had he not been, he would already be dead. Although Sundered Night consumed no origin energy at dawn, the opponents he faced were simply too powerful. Even without expending origin energy, his origin soul had weakened significantly. At this moment, the authority within Wang Lin's voice was enough to force the All-Seer into silence. The surroundings fell completely still. Yet at that very instant, the cries of the Vermillion Bird in the sky grew increasingly sharp and intense. As the cries drew closer, Wang Lin's Vermillion Bird tattoo began to tremble violently. It broke free from his body without his control and flew out. The white Vermillion Bird lifted its proud head and cried toward the heavens. The 2 cries met in mid-air, intertwining. Within the cry of Wang Lin's white Vermillion Bird, there was a faint trace of joy. It circled around Wang Lin, continuing its cry. Then, above the demon spirit land, an even more terrifying sea of flames erupted, replacing the sky itself. As the cries echoed, a massive Vermillion Bird head emerged from the sea of fire. It was so enormous that it seemed to fill the entire sky. The flames covering its body burned with such intensity that it felt as if they would dry out the entire land. The moment the Vermillion Bird's head appeared, an indescribable pressure descended upon everything. Master Hollow Wind and the others were jolted from their shock, gasping sharply. Situ Nan's eyes widened. Even Ling Tianho's pupils shrank as he raised his head to look. The All-Seer's expression grew darker still, and within it lingered a trace of bitterness. The Vermillion Bird's sharp gaze swept across the ground. When it landed upon Wang Lin, it let out another cry. Then its enormous body surged out from the sea of flames. As it emerged, the surrounding fire rapidly contracted. In the blink of an eye, the Vermillion Bird's true spirit had stepped forth from the sea of flames. The vast inferno became the feathers upon its body, while the remaining flames transformed into its tail. Only after it fully revealed itself did everyone realize that the boundless sea of fire had merely been part of the Vermillion Bird's body. The sound of people inhaling sharply echoed through the air. The giant Vermillion Bird charged directly toward Wang Lin. He frowned slightly, yet a spark of enlightenment appeared within his mind. This understanding came from the familiar resonance of his Vermillion Bird tattoo. In an instant, the Vermillion Bird closed in. It originally intended to enter through the space between his eyebrows, but at the last moment it changed its course. The Vermillion Bird's true spirit transformed into a sea of flames and surged straight into the wound in Wang Lin's chest. At that instant, a sea of fire erupted around Wang Lin. His body rose into the air, lifted by an unseen force. Flames of monstrous intensity burst from him. His white Vermillion Bird returned to his body, and then a suit of crimson armor materialized around him. The armor was exquisite, adorned with the carving of a white Vermillion Bird. In that moment, Wang Lin appeared dazzling beyond compare. Even the blood sword lodged in his chest began to shrink, gradually remaining within his body. From the outside, no trace of it could be seen. His flowing white hair contrasted sharply with the crimson armor. Within Wang Lin's eyes, a glint of sharpness flickered. Even now, he did not fully understand what had occurred. Yet the indescribable power of the flames allowed him to touch upon a trace of Nirvana cleanser cultivation. It felt as though, with a single thought, he could command all the flames beneath heaven and earth. Just like the ancient Thunder Dragon, he now possessed the authority to rule over all fire in the world. High in the sky, hundreds of figures appeared behind the Vermillion Bird. At the forefront stood 6 individuals, each radiating immense pressure. All of them had white hair and their auras were earth-shaking. Nirvana Shatterers. Behind them, the members of the Vermillion Bird divine sect all emitted powerful flame auras. As they appeared, every single one of their gazes locked firmly onto Wang Lin. When the 6 elders saw him, their faces revealed both shock and excitement. Their excitement came from the fact that they had traveled across vast distances to protect the one who had awakened. Now seeing that Wang Lin was safe, they all let out quiet sighs of relief. But what shocked them was something else entirely. Although they had remained outside the moment the law of origin manifested, they too had been dragged into the illusion of Sundered Night. Having experienced such a terrifying spell firsthand, how could they not be shaken? And within that shock, there was also a trace of fear. If even they felt this way, there was no need to mention the hundreds of Vermillion Bird divine sect members behind them. Their eyes were filled with fanatic devotion as they looked at Wang Lin. If nothing unexpected occurred, this man would become their next divine emperor. One of the 6 elders with 7 vermilion birds embroidered upon his robes immediately shouted, "Protect the one who has awakened." As his voice rang out, the 6 elders moved, instantly appearing beside Wang Lin. The rest of the Vermillion Bird divine sect disciples spread out in all directions, their gazes sweeping across the surroundings, filled with killing intent. The white Vermillion Bird tattoo upon the crimson armor, together with his white hair, lent Wang Lin a strange and chilling temperament. Though he was merging with the Vermillion Bird's true spirit, and his body surged with powerful fire origin energy, the pallor on his face could not be concealed. Sundered Night was terrifyingly powerful, yet his comprehension of the law of origin was only superficial. Forcing its use had brought severe consequences upon him. The might of that spell had reached an unprecedented peak. It was the result of the manifestation of the law of origin, the Vermillion Bird's true spirit, Wang Lin's second awakening, and his own desperation. All of it combined into a single moment. It was not something he could reproduce again. Even if he did, it would never reach the same level. His origin soul remained weak. Worse still, the blood sword from the grey-robed All-Seer's desperate strike remained within him. Though the portion outside his body had vanished, the blade itself was still embedded inside, piercing through his origin soul. Even his breathing caused waves of intense pain to surge from his chest. His face grew even paler. If not for his ancient god body, with its astonishing resilience, such injuries would have long since claimed his life. Yet even with the body of a 5-star ancient god, the pain did not lessen. The blood sword carried a frigid slaughter energy. This energy was anything but ordinary. It was the very root of all the grey-robed All-Seer's spells. The agony did not make Wang Lin collapse. Instead, he clenched his teeth tightly, refusing even a single groan. His gaze passed over the members of the Vermillion Bird divine sect and settled upon the All-Seer and ancient devil Xianxia. Under normal circumstances, the fire origin energy within him would have made him immune to cold. But with his origin soul weakened, he felt as though he stood within a frozen world, his body encased in ice. The old man who had shouted earlier clasped his hands respectfully toward Wang Lin. "We are the vanguard of the Vermillion Bird divine sect, sent to find you. Nearly the entire sect has been mobilized to ensure your absolute safety." Vermillion Bird divine sect. Wang Lin looked at the old man and gave a slight nod. Even this small motion caused a surge of pain in his chest, yet he endured it. Regardless of their reasons, he would remember this aid. However, despite being surrounded by the Vermillion Bird divine sect, he felt no sense of safety. Not far away, ancient devil. Xianxia swept his gaze over them, his expression exceedingly strange. The flower imperial concubine Situ Nan Wang Wei Hu Juan and the others all moved toward the Vermillion Bird divine sect, clearly separating themselves from the All-Seer and ancient devil Xianxia. The ones who should arrive have nearly all arrived. Xianxia licked his lips. His eyes glowed red as he stared at Wang Lin, who stood surrounded. He had to kill this man. Previously, the ancient devil had not cared about Wang Lin. Even Wang Lin's royal bloodline could not compare to the ancient order inheritance he sought. But the shocking transformations Wang Lin had undergone, along with that spell which even shook him, forced him to take notice. Moreover, he vaguely sensed that Wang Lin's presence here was part of Qing Lin's design. Because of this, unless Wang Lin died, unease would linger in his heart. This feeling was mysterious, yet unmistakably clear. This Wang Lin has repeatedly disrupted my plans. He has become a variable within the Celestial Emperor Cave. Once he dies, that variable disappears, and all of Qing Lin's schemes become meaningless. The All-Seer's voice echoed slowly, further solidifying Tajia's resolve. Tajia let out a roar, a bloodthirsty smile spreading across his face as he stepped forward. The humanoid creature moved alongside him. The All-Seer formed hand seals, and his remaining 5 avatars surged toward the crowd. As for the All-Seer himself, he waved his sleeve. His robes fluttered without wind. Black and white energies spread outward from his body, shooting into the heavens. The black and white intertwined in the sky, forming a chaotic mass. The All-Seer's left hand formed a seal as he sat down, closed his eyes, and began to mutter. His voice was faint, nearly inaudible. As he spoke, an ancient void seemed to emerge from within the chaos. It was as if something was whispering from within, though the words could not be understood. Yet when everyone heard it, a deep fear rose within them as though facing a natural predator. A crushing pressure descended from the sky, causing the earth to rumble violently. In a blink, the trembling reached its peak. Thunderous roars echoed. Countless cracks tore across the ground, spreading rapidly and linking together. Almost instantly, the earth within 50 kilometers shattered. Massive chunks rose into the sky like towering pillars ascending into the black and white chaos. Wang Lin's expression darkened. The ground continued to tremble. Black and white fog surrounded the area, blocking both sight and divine sense. Ancient Devil, Tajia moved with terrifying speed, arriving in an instant. The 6 Nirvana Shatterer elders of the Vermillion Bird divine sect grew solemn and rushed forward. Their hands formed seals, and a vast sea of flames surged outward. Tajia sneered and swung the blade in his hand. Blade energy swept forth, forcing the sea of flames back and splitting it cleanly in two. The All-Seer's avatars closed in. Wang Wei and Hu Zhuan gritted their teeth and charged forward. The Flower Imperial concubine sighed softly and moved to intercept them. At the same moment, nearly 100 disciples of the Vermillion Bird divine sect acted without command. They sat down in lotus position. Their hands formed seals, and instantly their origin souls flew out. The moment these origin souls appeared, scorching heat filled the air. What shocked Big Head and the others was that the moment they emerged, they began to fuse. The origin soul was the essence of a cultivator's being. Due to differences in domains, fusion was impossible. If anything, it would result in devouring. Without a heaven-defying treasure, 2 origin souls could not coexist. Yet before their eyes, nearly 100 origin souls fused rapidly, forming a towering flame giant hundreds of feet tall. The giant roared and charged toward ancient devil Tajia. Wang Lin's pupils shrank at the sight. A trace of curiosity toward the Vermillion Bird divine sect arose within him. The 6 Nirvana Shatterer cultivators and the flame giant battled ancient devil Tajia. Wang Wei, Hu Zhuan, and the Flower Imperial concubine engaged the All-Seer's 5 avatars. On the side, Master Hollow Wind Situ Nan, who was forcibly suppressing Poison Big Head, and the others cast spells in support. In an instant, the battlefield became chaotic and intense. The Flower Imperial concubine not only fought the All-Seer's avatars, but also contended with the humanoid creature. The land within 50 kilometers trembled violently as countless spells flashed across the battlefield. Wang Lin sat in lotus position upon the ground. His injuries were severe. Pain surged constantly from his chest, draining the color from his face. Yet amidst the battle, he could not heal. He could only swallow large amounts of pills, forcibly suppressing his injuries. In the distance, the seated All-Seer suddenly opened his eyes and stared directly at Wang Lin. He raised his hand and pointed toward the sky. A roar erupted from the black and white chaos. As the roar echoed, a headless figure stepped out. This headless man had a powerful physique and held a crimson spear in his right hand. His entire being radiated a savage aura. The moment he appeared, dense black mist poured from his body, forming a suit of black armor. Without a sound, the headless man charged toward Wang Lin. The distance between them was short. He arrived almost instantly, like a gust of black wind thrusting his spear forward. Wang Lin was like an arrow at the end of its flight, yet he was not so easily killed. At the moment of danger, his eyes turned cold. His right eye glowed blue as an azure light shield appeared before him. A loud bang resounded as the red spear struck the shield. Cracks already marred its surface. Though they did not deepen, the shield was forced back several inches. The headless man was pushed back 3 steps. The black armor on his body shone as he charged once more. Seizing the brief moment of retreat, Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat something out. It was the 18 Hell Celestial Sealing Stamp. Without hesitation, Wang Lin's right hand reached into the void. A crystal light appeared in his palm. He flung it forward without mercy. As the light shone before him, he shouted, "Magic Arsenal!" The crystal light blazed brightly. Mournful cries echoed from souls unable to enter the cycle of reincarnation. They surged out from the 18 hell celestial ceiling stamp and rushed into the specks of light. The light gained power. Yin energy spread outward in waves. What was most terrifying was that Master Void's soul stepped out from the 18th layer of hell. His eyes were blood red. With a beast-like roar, he charged straight at the headless man.